everyone. Happy Friday. So I'm just going to warn you all, you're probably going to want to grab a box of Kleenex. I'm already getting choked up because I'm going to talk about Dr. Chelsea for a minute. And I hope all of you have an opportunity to have a Chelsea in your life. She's an amazing friend and chiropractor and sister and mate and daughter and all of those things. She encourages people and she's loyal and honest and tries extremely hard and is just always puts herself out there. And I'm just so thankful that I get to have you in my life.
No, of course. I'm thankful for you. I mean, we'll get into a lot more of the specifics, but you've saved my life, and the boot camp has really saved my life too. So I'm excited to talk about those things. So thank you for such nice words.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, Dr. Chelsea and I, before we went live, we're just talking about, hey, Jess, we love you too, girl. We're just talking about her new stepbrother, Leland, and I'll have Chelsea tell you the story of this little guy. And
just so you know, Dr. Barb, we can't talk about too many specifics just yet about that. But,
yeah. But more so just Chelsea's attitude about this little guy and life, and that despite like some horrible things that she's had to endure this past year, that she instead, sees someone else's heartbreak. And I just want to tell you, I'm really proud of you. And I love you and I appreciate you. And I love all of the support that you give in the boot camp and to me personally. And Dr. Chelsea, for those of you who were at Sherman and got to come and join us at her office, she and Megan hosted us in Chelsea's office for a wonderful woman's reception. Like, we just had the best time, and they had the whole office ready to go and got all the food set up and made us all feel so welcomed. And so I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate that. And it was really fun getting to know you and seeing you face to face. So many of clients in the boot camp, and when you join, please do say hi, because we love seeing all of you. Otherwise, all we can see is viewers with a little eye, but we don't know that you're with us. And as Chiro sisters or Chiro brothers, we'd love to know who's with us. So let us know in the comment section that you're with us. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's talk about your journey, and let's talk about how do you keep overcoming and pushing on, and what are the fundamental lessons you've learned this year?
Oh God, what have I not learned this year? I mean, I know you're wanting to talk a lot about like adversity, and I just feel like that was something that I was unfortunately born into because of my dad passing away in front of me when I was young. And that lesson, that just taught me how to be strong and how to get through, and life goes on. And you have two options. You can roll over and get stuck in that adversity and let it define you, or you can grow from it, learn from it, and be stronger and help others be stronger who might be going through similar things. So this year has tested me. I've learned a lot personally. I've learned even more professionally as far as that goes. I'm not sure what route you want me to go is with this. So
yeah, so let's just talk about like and let's go all the way back to the boot camp. Like what caused you to first reach out, and what was going on? And then, I mean, it's been almost a year. It'll be a year, Labor Day weekend, 4th of July weekend, something close to that. It's like one of the holidays, because when I was on the boat.
Yeah, that's right.
You and Megan have to come and join us one of these days.
We are on our way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had other coaches, and my office has done well. But what happened was, you come out of school, and when I was in school, I was a perfectionist. If you put me in any class, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to get every award. And I got all but one award at Sherman when I graduated, and it was the Clinical Excellence Award, which, let's be honest, that's the only award that really matters. But it's a great student, and you put them in a business, and it's just so different. It was such a fish out of water experience for me. So I had a lot to learn. So I really leaned heavily on my mentors through Align Life and my peers who were doing well. And I knew right out the bat, like, I need a coach. But what was happening is I realized as I started to gain momentum and started to kind of create my own vision that I was hitting goals that were set by me by somebody else and somebody else's vision and somebody else's task list that needed to be checked off. And when I decided that I was ready to have kids and start a family, my vision for myself, my office, my practice, I mean, everything changed. And I didn't really have anybody that could help me kind of foster that relationship and that vision. And I wanted to define success on my own terms and for what my life looked like. And I remember being in the Women DC group and just seeing your name keep coming up, keep coming up, keep coming up. And I'm a big believer that the universe gives you what you need, not what you want. And I just was like, all right, who is this person? And let me just give her a call. And I remember talking to you, and you even spoke to Megan, and that was amazing, having somebody include her. She still loves that to this day, but we both just felt like, okay, this is our answer. This is where we need to go. And that's what got me into the boot camp. And I haven't looked back since. So
let's go back to something that you said was, I realized somebody else was setting my goals for me. Let's speed bump there, because I hear that a lot with, on calls with new docs of that. And I think sometimes they haven't been able to articulate yet what that looks like. What was that like? And how did it start? How did it become dissonance for you? And then how did you recognize it?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're asking. I remember seeing, I mentored for different offices, and then I remember seeing these doctors who were super successful, and I was like, great, I can do that. I want that. I want what they're doing. Tell me what they're doing. And I just basically had, was like, do this, do this, do this, and here's your goal. And it was like this whole spreadsheet thing that I would look at with all these goals. And then I remember one day I was like, okay, what if I set my own goals? What does that feel like for me? What does that mean? Like, you're giving me this number, like, we want you to collect $60,000 a month, whatever, for a goal. And I couldn't understand, how do you get to a goal like that? What does that look like? You put this number and dangle this carrot in front of me, I want it, but how do I get there? So then I just tried to set my own goals and reverse engineer in my own way, and not really knowing what I was doing to figure that out. And through that process, you just kind of create your own vision. I don't know. I really, really, that's why I like the way you coach, is because you motivate. You help me pull out my goals, and then the goals that I have, you'll be like, yeah, but maybe you could also do this. You help me to make bigger goals for myself and push myself harder, but you have never set the goal. And I love the thread that we have tagged in the boot camp right now, talking about everybody's goals. And you've commented on everybody to push them a little bit harder, but you have people who are like, I want to collect $5,000 this month, or I want to see 10 new patients this month, or I want to collect $70,000 this month. And you are just pushing us and guiding us to what our definition of success is. You don't let us settle. You don't let us be comfortable, but you don't define it for us, because you can't. Our circumstances are different. That's one thing I've realized, is I like to compare myself to everybody else. And when I do that, I fall short every time because of what we're looking at in a different person. And I don't want to continue to compare myself, because my life is very different than any of these other offices, and everybody else has different circumstances. We go through different things. We have different people in our lives, different people in our offices. And I think it's very important for us right out the gate to define our own success, and then push it a little bit higher, and then have a coach help us get to that point.
Nice. Yeah. And it's, I always look at goals as, all right, who am I going to become in the process? And is that person actually capable of something even more? Like, if I can do this, why not this? Or maybe it's going to be, hey, Heidi, hey, Amanda, and Shelly, Jesse, thanks for joining us. And Kim Smith, I see you in there. I hope your finals went well, girl. I guess maybe they were midterms. I don't remember. She was studying for something when we were at Lyceum. Is like, what if I did this? You know, I just helped a client the other day. She was like, you know what? I actually really want to make $5,000 more on top of everything else I'm doing. I'm like, beautiful. What's the importance of that? Like, it's just, if it's just a number, it's just a number. And so that's what you were talking about. Hey, Kim. But if there's real relevance, and as she was talking about it, she was like, well, because this is what I want to do with it. And that's really going to make me feel like, you know, like, not that I had arrived, but whew, that's like the next step I really want to get to. I'm like, let's just do it. Like, why not? And I love what Matthew said in the group call on Wednesday. I have to get it so I say it right. Just a second.
I guess I'll just entertain you guys. Hi, Heidi. I see you waving up there.
I knew you'd cover for me. So he said this, whatever it is you have right now is what you most want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever it is. So what does that mean to you? Whatever it is you have right now is what you most want. Hey, Carrie.
Yeah, I started, hi, Carrie. I started, I really thought about that when he said that in our meeting the other day, and he's so true. And it goes back to kind of the value that we put on our patients on like a care plan. If you give, it's not about a number, it's about the value. And if they value it, they'll make it a priority. So I remember when I was shadowing a doctor one time in chiropractic school, and he presented this care plan, and this person was like, oh, I can't afford it, and walked out. And then that evening went to Best Buy and saw that same patient buying like a 72-inch TV. And it's like, okay, so you could afford it. So I think that quote, you know, what you most want is what you have now, is because that's what you're working towards. I mean, you really can open up your mind and have whatever you want, whatever you're willing to work for, and whatever you value, you're going to make it happen, or you're going to make an excuse. And if you want it hard enough, you're not going to make an excuse.
And for those who are watching, I'd love to know what your thoughts are about this as well. And you can drop it in the comment section. And here it is. Whatever it is you have right now is what you want most. And I think of it like in Jen Sanchero's book, she talks about the old story of the monkey reaching in to get something out into the cage. And in order to get free, right, he had to let go of what that was. That, like, what are we holding on to? And it's not a huge secret. I've definitely put on weight over the past several years. And when Matthew said that the other day, I'm like, that is so relevant, because I'm choosing this, you know, like, I'm choosing these Kona M&Ms, which I don't know if you've ever had them before, but they're macadamia nuts with toffee and dark chocolate with like this powdery stuff. And this guy from church, Charlie, thank you, I love you, but the butt has got to stop growing. This older gentleman from our church, he goes back and forth to Kona all the time, and he brings them for me. And I tell you, it's like crack. So what I want most is, I don't want to be this heavy, but man, those M&Ms, or, you know, exchanging a 3:30 in the morning work time for workout time. So what you want most, and we all have to be honest with ourselves, like, what we want most is what we have, because like that person going and buying the television. So clearly what they wanted most and what they valued was the TV, not chiropractic adjustments, not a return to their health. And for everyone to remember, there's only two choices in Sell or Be Sold. We're either sold on the lies, excuses, and rationalizations, like rationing lies, like that got us where we are, or we're sold on the opportunity for transformation. It can't be both. It's one or the other. And it's the same thing when we're sitting in a report of findings. So anyway, I love that. And I love how we talked about routine. So how has let's bring this full circle with what has been critical for you this past year in order to get knocked down and come back up, and get knocked down and come back up, and get that knocked down. And then the physical tools on your body and all of this stuff that you've been through. Like what was it? Was it the cue that got you back? Was it the routine? Was it the reward? What like pulled you forward to keep going another day?
Oh God. Definitely the routine. And that is something that I've learned through this, but I'll touch on that after I finish this statement. But definitely a routine. Your mindset, that week one mindset, is like my Monday morning go-to, which really should be like a Thursday, Friday morning go-to to end the week. I really need to start the week. But I remember when I joined the boot camp, there was a time when it was Friday and I was pissed off because I wasn't able to be in the practice anymore and serve my patients that day because I was so fired up. And it was because of your mindset that we have in week one, all of that stuff. But I know my goals, I know my values, I know who I am as a person, I know what I want, where I'm going, and all of those, whether it's my personal life or professional life, they all intertwine. And I knew that I had to keep moving forward. So that was one thing else that I liked about you, is you spoke my language. We've read all of the same books, and I haven't really found anybody else that's read all of the same books and relates to them. I think I've listened to 5-Second Rule 4 times already in the last year, just because that's what it is about. You have to get up in the morning. You have to start your day and be the boss of it. When it came to the things that I was going through, I was taking such a physical toll on my body, what I was stupidly putting myself through, that I had to take, kind of the consciousness out of it. And it was just a habit. Like, I get up at 5 a.m. and this is what I do every morning. I journal, I go through this, I set my personal goal, my professional goal. And doing that allows you to kind of get in that routine and keep going through with what you have to get done. But what I learned through all of this, and where the boot camp really has added value to me recently, is because in my office now, I am seeing the effects of my mind being out of the game last month. And it's been a tough thing for me to realize, but what I've learned from it is that throughout the last 2-3 years that I've been in practice, I have been managing a business and not running a practice. And what that means to me is, if you have a successful business, it should be able to run whether I'm here or not. Of course, you need to plug in another doctor to adjust. But the problem is, I was having to be here and telling my staff, this is what you need to do today. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. Okay, we're doing this, and it was this, it's been such a big ordeal that now I know I need to have systems in place. So somebody's always sick or dying or has to take a day off, or you're going through something. I mean, something is always happening that you need to have those systems in place, so that this office, I should be able to sit back and the wheels should turn and I plug in where I need to be, which is adjusting my patients. And that's the daily success sheet, is what's being implemented in my office now, so that I don't have to keep telling my staff, you need to be asking for referrals. You need to be asking for testimonials. We need to be asking for Google reviews or set up the workshop, And I felt like for so long, I've just been managing all of that. And those things didn't happen unless I was here. But they should be a daily routine that happens in the practice, so that if I'm going through something mentally, this office should still be growing. I should not be the only person in the office growing the business. It should be the team growing it.
Yes, yes, yes. And so in the good times, we're teaching them to be prepared for the bad times, so that when they're there without us, it's not like we have to keep pouring and keep pouring and keep pouring. So do you want to talk about the past year and what's gone on, and how has, and you and I talked about this when we were at the hotel, of looking at, like, I want this thing so badly. I'm going to trust the people who are telling me to do this. And yet, man, something's, so you tell the story. You're better at it than I am.
You're doing great. So I decided that Carrie's a good friend of mine. Hi, Carrie. So I decided that I wanted to have kids. And when I went into the doctors to get a checkup, I mean, I have been under regular chiropractic care for 9 or 10 years now, and I have not seen a medical doctor in 9 or 10 years. So we went in to get checked, and the first thing they did was an ultrasound and found that I had a tumor on my ovary. So, of course, when you hear those words, you're like, oh my goodness. At the time, I was 28 years old. I have a tumor on my ovary. What does that mean? And I just knew that, there was 25 years of crap that I had put my body through before I knew better. And I just assumed, well, great, this is an accumulation of that. You're going to have to deal with it. Do what the doctors say, And I had surgery. They removed the tumor. And then after that, they were like, well, you're not creating any eggs. So if you want to have kids, you need to take this medication. And it was one medication that you just had to take for 3 days during your period, and that would create eggs. So the first month, I didn't make any eggs taking that medication. Then after that, they were like, okay, we're going to up your dose this time. And I was like, okay, this is what I have to do to make eggs. So then they upped my dose again. Then I made 1 egg. And then each month after that, we had no success, but they kept upping and upping and upping my medication because it always felt like, you're so close. Just do this one more thing. Do this one more thing. Up this just a little bit more, And so in my brain, I was thinking, coming from a realm of natural health, I do functional medicine and chiropractic. So this is like against everything that I believe in and do and tell my patients. But I wanted a kid, and I thought that this is what I had to do. So, every time I turned around, they were upping it and upping it and upping it. And next thing you know, a year has passed, and I've done 2 rounds of IVF with 2 failed embryo transfers. The first round of IVF that I did, I got all the way through it and did not make any eggs, no matter how many shots I was putting in my body, hormones, this, that, or the other. And so then, of course, well, you've already done that. Let's just change this one medication and try it again. So, and on top of that, the doctors are saying your lab work is perfect. At this time, I was about 25 pounds lighter. My hormones were perfect. I mean, they were like, we don't know what's going on. Everything looks good. But what was going on is I was drugging my body and making it even worse. And what I thought was moving me forward was just bringing me back. So it took a lot out of me. It took a lot out of me financially. It took a lot out of me emotionally. And it took a ton out of me physically. So having to try and grow a practice and going through all of this, feeling like crap every single day it's the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. And they did a study in the New York Times that said women who are, once you decide you want to have a kid and you're actively trying to get pregnant, every month that you don't, it's like mourning a new death. So for 12 months, it's like I've been mourning a death. And it's been tough. The last embryo transfer that we did, I remember thinking and doing research and saying, there's a natural way to do this. You can do it naturally. Why don't you just do it naturally? You don't have to take any medications, just do it naturally. And I was like, I started listening to the doctors, and they're like, you've come this far, you've spent this much money. Why would you waste an embryo that you've created and not use the medications to support your body through it? And so we did another embryo transfer, and I was able to get pregnant and had a miscarriage, unfortunately, at 8 weeks. And they said that it had quit growing at 6 weeks. So that was devastating. Physically, it was devastating. I know there's so many women who, I shared my story on a Facebook post when that happened, and I have had countless women call me and tell me they've been through the same thing. I've had my patients tell me they've been through the same thing. I've had people in and out of my Facebook inbox telling me, thank you for sharing your story. I've been through the same thing. And it kind of forced me to look inside, like, what is it about my age group right now that's having such an issue with infertility? And why is this a thing? And there's so many different trends, and that's where, I kind of landed in somebody from the boot camp reached out to me and was like, hey, you need to talk to Dr. Marcia Schaefer and the ICPA. And this is what she does. I mean, she does this natural protocol of women with an importance on chiropractic care, an importance on natural health and nutrition, of getting our bodies healthy, because the problem is infertility is it's not a problem. I mean, it's the fact that our bodies aren't healthy. Like, fertility is a side effect of being healthy. Infertility is a side effect of being unhealthy. And
so let me ask you something.
Yeah.
So if fertility is a sign of health, then in your study, and I got to say, like, I know it's not my call about who God allows to be a mom and who doesn't. And I know it hurts his heart more than we can ever imagine because we are his creation. But I think of these moms, like the other day I was in a store and I saw this girl with, a baby on a hip, a baby in her cart with a, like a car seat thing, and then a little one running around. And she was clearly on a lot of drugs. Like she couldn't hold still, and she's like scratching, and her face is a wreck. And, she's got all of her WIC stuff lined up, which is all of this chemicals now for the babies, which is like supposedly food. So I'm guessing that girl was not very healthy when she got pregnant. So if you have to be healthy to conceive, then what about stuff like that? Is it what the body got used to? Or what have you discovered in there? Because you were super healthy when you started the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I was the healthiest I ever was. You're talking about, if you want something bad enough, you're going to get it. I was bound and determined to look good in my wedding dress. So that's the only time I've ever been able to lose weight. Because I wanted it. And I did. But anyway, so what I am finding is, and I'm not an expert on this subject, this is just from my personal experience, what I've researched, is the best way for me to answer that would be through epigenetics. So many of us have these genes. Like I may be more predisposed to having the infertility gene, if you will, or something that causes me to have, PCOS or endometriosis or whatever it is. And different things that my body takes in allows the body to express that more than somebody else would. It reminds me of a friend of mine who has a brother with autism. And she always says, it's like how she describes it, if we're talking about autism, vaccines, whatever, it's like somebody who is allergic to being stung by a bee. I could get stung by a bee and not have an issue, but another person can get stung by a bee and go into anaphylactic shock. So it's just the way that our genes are being expressed, and they could be different for everybody. So an important part of healing yourself through that Dr. Marsha talks about is doing the right things and putting the right supplements in place and chiropractic care to help those genes that create negative impacts on our health turn off. And there are ways to do that. So, women who have had multiple miscarriages, or women who have been unable to get pregnant, or who are used to having, PCOS, whatever, we can work with those things. The body is designed to heal. The body is designed to be healthy, but it's different. Why is it that somebody can have an autoimmune disease and somebody else can't, and they may eat the same thing? It's just, the body is amazing. It can work for us and it can work against us. So.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. Like if you have these genes, if they're not in the presence of this thing, they're not going to express. And we don't always know, like that we have like gene mutations, like the MTHFR or whatever, which is why it is that much more important, right? To, from conception or preconception, be healthy and don't think that your kids, they're young. They can tolerate whatever, the McDonald's, or they can tolerate the cookies. Actually, I remember, so I coached Dr. Marsha when she first opened her practice, Marsha Schaefer, and her little guy, I can't remember his name, but I remember that he was, I think, with a grandparent, and they gave him, something that Marsha and her husband did not allow him to eat. And it really upset her. And I remember thinking, like, it's a cookie or whatever. But now, I mean, she was like so far ahead of her time, because, man, like in the presence of that stimulant, of that chemical stressor, it could produce something really terrible, right? So we need to make sure that our genes, right, are always in being, I want to say, like, bathed in all things health as best as we possibly can. Is that kind of right? That's how, I mean, that's a really gross, like, elementary way to express it. Like, I think of the quote unquote hangover gene. Well, it won't express itself if you don't drink. Oh, right. You won't get a hangover if there's really such a thing as a hangover gene.
Yeah, there's a lot to epigenetics, but you know, the work Dr. March is doing is phenomenal. So I do encourage any of the, you know, women chiropractors and men chiropractors who are working with, you know, women in the preconception age or whatever, to go through her stuff, because she's done a phenomenal job. Very smart woman when it comes
Yeah.
to this stuff. But you know,
Hey,
another thing
Chelsea, can I ask you another question?
yeah.
So doing the medical route versus now the natural route, do you find that even like emotionally there's a difference? Like it seems that going the medical route, because you're introducing chemicals, and I remember you telling me about like how many shots you were having to take and all of this stuff, and clearly your body was revolting. So then emotionally, right? So going that route, and like the personal toil on you, especially as a natural health care provider, a chiropractor, versus now going the route where you're healing your body. Is there a difference emotionally for somebody who's watching who maybe has been doing the IVF route and is just like emotionally spent to recognize like the journey of infertility doesn't have to be that? Or like I've never been through it, so I'm not meaning to offend anybody. Please understand that. I'm not trying to be insensitive. I'm trying to understand because I don't know.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. This has been a experience that I never wanted to go through, but going through it has opened my eyes to so much. You know, I think so many people who want to go through IVF get kind of frowned down upon sometimes, but I think that women and medical doctors are doing what they believe is best. I think we all have the same goal in mind, and it's to get people pregnant. I mean, because I have met some women where IVF is their only option, and that's fine. But there are things that we can also do to help encourage a better outcome with that. I think through educating people on the importance of their diet and improving egg quality or sperm quality and things like that, and getting adjusted chiropractic. We all know. I think all of us have had those stories of chiropractic care and that. But as far as doing more of a natural route, right now we are taking a break just so I can heal myself because I have been on medications for fertility, you know, for a year now. So my liver hates me. My body hates me. My mind has been a mess, you know. It's been really tough to hold it together. And I think if you talk to anybody that has been around me this last year would probably agree with you that I just have not been myself. It's been tough. So I ended up seeing a therapist in the area who specializes in fertility and postpartum and stuff like that, because there was a point where I couldn't decide if I felt the way I felt because I was depressed or anxious, or if it was a side effect of the medication. And through working with her, we quickly realized that it was a side effect of the medication because, you know, the drugs they put you on put you right into menopause so that then they can synthetically create eggs or, you know, embryos or support your body for pregnancy, whatever. I mean, science is incredible. The fact that we can do all this stuff is incredible. But the problem is everybody that I knew around me who did IVF got pregnant on their first try. And they never experienced some of the stuff that we did. So I was looking up to these people who were able to go through it. And I was like, okay, you know, it's like 2 weeks of shots. You can get through it. Then you're pregnant. Then you come off the medications. It's not a big deal. But for us, it wasn't that case. You know, it was, you're not making any eggs. Try again. Okay. Your eggs are bad quality. Try again. Okay. This didn't work. The timing was off. Try again. Okay, great. Now you're pregnant, but your embryo sucks because your egg quality probably sucks because I've been drowning my body in, you know, who knows what for the last year. So, you know, I have 2 embryos right now that are frozen and stored that we could use for a transfer, but I just don't have any confidence in them because, you know, we've already done 2. We did 4 IUIs, which, you know, is a more conservative method. When you ovulate and they try to get you pregnant, that didn't work. And then we did 2 embryo transfers, and neither of those eggs worked out. So now I'm faced with, what do I do now? You know, it's just tough. And, you know, because of my life and being with Megan, we have to have some sort of help when it comes to fertility. So right now I'm working through Dr. Marsh's protocol, trying to get better egg quality. But right now healing myself, getting back to where I was, getting this business to a good place. So that when I do get pregnant, I have a healthy baby, because let's face it, we're creating a lot of sick babies now. I mean, I've seen so many babies who are so sick. And I think that whether we're talking about fertility, we're talking about health, we're talking about autoimmune disorders, we're talking about gut issues, the problem is we are, as women, not healthy all the time, and we're creating sick kids. So this has pushed me to have more of a passion for what I do. And I see myself running an office that works with women who are struggling with their fertility, or men who are struggling with their fertility, because it's not just a female issue. And, I think our goal as chiropractors is to create healthy generations to come and really change the face of healthcare. And what better way to do that than to get men and women healthy sperm and healthy eggs, so that we can create healthy babies that don't need to be on medications all the time, because that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, and you can start off with life with being healthy, instead of being behind the 8 ball already, as chemically altered and struggling. I can't, by God's grace, my kids have always been very healthy, and my heart breaks for parents whose children have major health issues, or even minor health issues, right from the get-go, or at any point in time. I mean, your heart just breaks for your kids, even if even if they have a runny nose, you feel so bad for them and so helpless. I mean, praise God, we're chiropractors, and we know how to affect a change and their body's ability to heal and be well. But that's really, really tough. So let me ask you this.
Hold on, with that. Sorry, I wanted to comment on that though, because when you go into this medical route, like this process, if I can remove my emotions from the fact that we had a miscarriage, we're not pregnant yet, and look at it from the outside, I have learned so much about what we have to do as chiropractors, because our patients are in this realm. They're scared. They're trusting people doctors. My brother's a medical doctor. I have friends that are medical doctors. They have the same exact passion of getting people better as we do, but they aren't trained to do it in a natural healthcare realm that we are. And so we get to see people not just survive, but thrive. And being able to understand how a patient gets sucked into that model. We'll take this medication. Well, now you're having this. We'll take this medication. We'll take this, this cycle. We have to help pull them out of that and get in their minds and know what they're battling, what we're battling against with them. And, through this, I have realized my body can heal. I've, been told, maybe you have bad eggs. Okay, well, great. So that means that either I'm not going to get pregnant, or I'm only going to be able to do it through having medications, whatever. But your eggs can renew every 120 days. And that was a reminder to me that your body can heal. So we need to remind our patients, no matter where they're at, it is our duty to let them trust the healing power of the body, because it can change. And, this whole year has really made me look into my conviction and what I've gone through, because my conviction went down. Here I am preaching natural health, but in between every new patient, I'm going to the doctor and getting injected with some sort of medication right down the street, and feeling like my body had failed me instead of trusting it and healing it. And that's a process. It's not happening overnight. Health does not happen overnight. And that's why patients need regular chiropractic care, regular exercise, regular nutrition. It is, it's not a magic pill like that documentary. I wish there was, but anyway, side note.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. And it seems like that was kind of pivotal for you when Marcia reminded you, like, you'll have new eggs every 120 days. And it was like, oh, new hope, right? And so all that you were talking about when you were going through IVF that made you take another step and invest again and try again was hope. And so, I think oftentimes we forget about that in our profession, that what we're offering is hope. Like, I can help you. You can be well. You can walk again. You can play with your kids. You can wake up in the morning and feel great. Your body makes new eggs every 120 days. Am I saying it's going to be easy or overnight? I'm not. Am I saying your body can do it? Absolutely. Let's do it together. I mean, like, wow. So if
Yeah.
those kinds of reminders can help us who like know it, just think how much it can help our practice members and our communities. And that's something I just give you so much credit for, Chelsea, is that you've been willing to take your own challenges and say, look, I get it. I get where you're at. I get the frustration. I get like why you would do something you never dreamed you would do, and taking drugs because you wanted that thing so badly. I get it. Let's step back in your situation and see how we can change things up so that you're honoring your body the whole way through. How does that sound? And now that's what you're doing. And it's like the joy, the light, the like Chelsea is coming back.
Well, you asked me earlier, and I kind of beat around the bush about how did I utilize my adversity to keep going. But through everything I've been through in my life, I watched my dad die in front of me, and I watched both of my aunts pass away from lung cancer and pancreatic cancer. And so that's what sparked me to go to chiropractic school, is because there had to be another answer about health. And then going through all of this, the fertility challenges, the only way this makes sense to me in my life is if I'm able to make something bigger come of it. And I have to help people who have been through the same thing. And maybe that's why the universe, God, put this on my life, is so I can understand what people go through and the mindset and the struggles and the issues, so that I can sit down and communicate that to people and be, that person. Like you said, I get it. I've been there. I've lived it. I understand exactly what you're feeling right now, but here's where we can go, So I really think anybody needs to take your adversity and learn from it and use it as rocket fuel and not a way to hold you back, because that's the only way we're able to help more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And Heidi just says, you are so brave and strong. Thank you for sharing with us. I have no doubt that you will make something bigger come from all of this. I know, right, Heidi? She's rock star. I agree. So let's talk about that. What, something I really love though is that you haven't become the worst that's happened to you. Like, you're not just like sitting around beat up, broken down, boo-hoo. I mean, horrible things have happened. And instead of allowing them to define you, you've instead said, no, this is who I am. Like, those are things I've been through, and they make it that I have a heart that can serve people and can understand them, but they don't define me. I remember when I met my husband, and one of the things that made me, I think I was sharing this with you, fall in love with them is, we're talking about our histories, and I'm not going to lie, if there was ever a perfect childhood, this girl had it. So, like, all of the screw ups in my life are definitely all my fault. I can't point my finger to anything or anyone. Thank you, Jesus, for the amazing life that I've had. And I'm listening to his story of childhood, and then he had testicular cancer and all of these things. And then he's like, I've never had a bad day in my life. And I'm like, dude, do you hear yourself? Like, how can that be? And really and truly, like, even people who know him well, very few even know he is a cancer survivor, because he doesn't want the worst things that have happened to him to define him. This is who I am. I'm strong. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a successful businessman. All of, like, that's the best thing. All of the rest of that stuff just help put the pieces together. But this is who I am. And I see that you've done the same thing. And I just love it. And so what advice do you have to people who are watching, who, if they're willing to admit it, are in victim mode? And what advice do you have for them, and hope? And I even think in the boot camp, it's a great place for you to get over that. But what advice do you have?
Yeah, my advice is, first of all, I am a person who has a lot of tough love to give. And when I see people who are victims, I think it's an excuse, honestly. Because if you look around, every single person, if you were to really dive deep, pull back the curtains between everybody's life, we're all dealing with something. And what I deal with may not be as big of a deal to what somebody else is going through. I mean, for goodness sake, I would take what I've gone through any day than some of the stuff these other people in the world have gone through. We talked about the little boy that my mom is fostering right now and, his life. So it's all about perspective. And I think you have to dig deep into that. So having my morning routine and meditating and journaling and really just reflecting on everything that I go through and trying to learn from it would be my best advice, because you can make it an excuse. And we've all seen those people who are victims of something. It's an excuse. I don't want to let this define me. I don't want to be this person. And there have been moments through this journey where, I was a little bit of a pity party, and it's annoying. It's annoying for me. It's annoying for the people around me. And it got me nowhere, at all.
Right.
It got me nowhere. So you start seeing, like, in the office for me, it's so many people are like, oh, you need to take time off work. And I'm like, I'm not taking time off work. That practice, if that starts tanking, that's even more stress for me,
Right.
So and then you start seeing some of these numbers drop down because I wasn't myself. And I allowed it to be a little bit of an excuse through this because it hurt. This was harder for me to go through than my dad dying, because when you go through certain things in life, when my dad died, everybody else lost him. My brother lost him. My mom lost him. My sister, everybody in the family was grieving. But when I'm going through dealing with fertility issues, nobody else is going through it. This is my burden to carry, and it sucks, and it is so hard. So there was some moments there where I kind of wanted a little bit of a pity party, and I realized very quickly that's not me. So you have to keep going, quit making excuses, and really reflect on what it's change your perspective of how you're looking at it, because it can always be worse. Always.
Yeah. And Robin posted, and I pinned it, gratitude.
Yeah.
If you're not getting what you want, check your gratitude. And there's always something to be grateful for. And it's a success principle that I think we forget. And it's one of the easiest things, like, to just wake up and be thankful. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. I don't care if it's a penny you have in your pocket. There's somebody who doesn't have it, and another day you may not have it. So be thankful for it today. And that's another thing I love about our boot camp, is that I think everyone is extremely grateful and appreciative and helpful. Maybe it's because the opposite of it wouldn't be tolerated. Like you'd kind of not be shamed, but it's just, like, we are our surroundings, right? And the greatest threat to our optimum potential is a low demand environment. And so we have all created the boot camp together. I didn't create it. I genuinely believe that every single one, Heidi, Joe, Carrie, I hope you come in. Kim, I hope you come in. Amanda, Shelly, welcome, come on in. And Jesse, we've collectively created the boot camp to be a place to thrive and grow and learn and stretch and all of those things. And Dr. Stacy just said, thank you, Chelsea, for the positive attitude reminder. It is easy to fall into self-sadness, but not to live there. Yeah. And, I think it's almost like, I remember in 2002, I found out that the man I was married to, not my husband now, had been cheating on me. And then found out that he had an addiction to pornography and So I did everything I could to learn about it and understand it. And one of the techniques that they teach men is to bounce off, like seeing a woman who's scantily dressed or whatever, like the bounce technique. And I think of that with, like, bad times in our life. And it doesn't mean, for those of you who are watching, like, oh, well, you just, like, are bearing it. No, we're not bearing it. We're just choosing not to put it here and wear it as if it's clothing. It's a time in my life. So instead, the things that we're allowing to really impact our life is all the good, because we get that choice. We get the choice of bad to impact our life or good to impact our life. Like I'm going to give a shout out to Donna Anthony and Christian McCormick, Donna owns Point Blank Firearms, and there are two women up here who created, they both had been brutally raped as young girls. Like, Christian was basically left for dead, brutally raped. I'm only telling her story because she tells it when she teaches. And instead of that defining them, they both got into law enforcement and then created a company called Point Blank Firearms. And they teach a class called Refuse to be a Victim. And they teach women only pistol classes, and they teach men too. And they teach all of these different things so that other women don't have to be, or, you know, have training to not be victims. It doesn't mean that women who become victims weren't trained or that they asked for it. No, please understand that's not what I'm saying. But let's be as prepared as we can. And these two women, instead of it setting them back in life, they're using it just like you are to catapult them forward as well to help others. So Chels, what last minute comments or advice or love do you want to share with our audience now or those who will watch later?
So my advice is, I think you're right on about gratitude. I think if we can take anything from anything of this today, it's to be grateful, because there were times through this journey where, you know, I'd wake up at 6, inject myself with something, fall asleep, wake up, inject myself with more drugs, and just feel like crap. But I would just be thankful of the fact that I could afford to do that, or the fact that I had Megan supporting me, or the fact that I had this great boot camp. So being grateful for the little things. But for anybody listening who doesn't have a coach, I think it's really, really important to have a coach. I mean, every great athlete has a coach. You have a coach. All the great people in our profession, still have coaches, still train. And you need to find somebody that resonates with you, and find somebody that will help you see your vision, because our vision is valuable. Our vision is important. It doesn't have to be the same to define success. So find a coach, find somebody. I highly recommend Dr. Barbara Eaton, but
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. You know that. But lean on people for support, you know, and stay true to yourself. I think so many times we try to compare ourselves to other people, and that's where we get confused about what our vision is and what we're really working towards. So don't compare yourself. Be true to yourself.
Nice. Awesome. Well, girl, I love and appreciate you so much. Thanks for taking this time to be with me today. For all of you who have been with us, thank you so much. It's always fun to see your comments and your names pop up. And thank you for the nice words that you said to Chelsea. You're right. She's extremely brave and incredibly courageous. And I value her tremendously as a friend and as a colleague and as a tribe member. So love and appreciate you. To all of you, have a wonderful weekend, and 10x.
Yeah.
10x your life. It's the best way, man. I'm telling you. All right. See ya. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.